I'd become a nameless ghost. That is how author Stephanie Land described her time as a maid serving America's upper middle class. After an unexpected life change, Land became a housekeeper. She not only got a firsthand experience with the challenges facing America's overworked and underpaid, but also an insider's perspective that being a faceless member of the household provides on her clients' lives. She maintained her dreams while balancing multiple domestic labor jobs, online college classes, and by the way, caring for her young daughter alone. Land recounts her struggles and reflections in her new book, Maid. She's now a writer whose work has been featured in Vox, Dame, Narratively, and she also was a writing fellow with the Center for Community Change, and Stephanie joins us now. Great to have you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
I want to start with that idea of being a nameless ghost, because one thing I talk about a lot is I think the real divide in the American workforce is between workers who are treated fundamentally like human beings and those who are not. And I wonder if that was what you found as well.
Definitely. I didn't feel like I was interacting with people on a human level. And the more that I've been talking about this lately, the more I've started to realize just how many invisible people are constantly cleaning up after me. Mm-hmm. And if you start to notice, I mean, it gets to like the dozens if you count the kitchen staff and, you know, whenever you go out to eat. And these are people who are supporting our lives, and they're working for wages that don't support their families.
Yeah, I mean, the economy is really divided into, you know, this one group of people that, you know, the creative class, and essentially the job of everyone else is to cater to their every whim 24 hours a day and to make sure, as you said, that they're cleaned up after, correct? So what does it do to your psyche to be that invisible cleaner going in to, you know, do the bidding of the upper middle class?
You really feel like you don't have value. It took a really long time for me to feel like my time had value and that it had a monetary value to it. When I started self-employment cleaning, like meaning I would go out and get my own clients, they insisted on paying me $20 an hour. And for me, I felt like I was getting away with something. And because I had been working for minimum wage for so long and in these jobs that were really, really hard, and then would go out and find my own clients, and their houses were so much easier, and they wanted to like pay me all this money. And I didn't feel like I deserved that much money.
That's unbelievable. What was it like for you, not only are you working this very difficult job for low wages, and not being treated like a human being, essentially, and then you're also trying to raise your daughter. What were some of the challenges that entailed?
A lot of it was just a challenge of finding someone to care for her so I could work. Just finding appropriate and healthy childcare environments, keeping her healthy, keeping myself healthy to an extent. I never really expected to be healthy. I had to work through anything that came at me, but not being able to take her to daycare because she was sick meant I lost a day's wage, but it also meant I could possibly lose that job.
And what has it been like for your daughter? She's very central in the book. What has it been like for her to read the story of her young child? She's still a child, but of her young childhood, and to know how hard it was and how much you thought about her and everything that you were doing.
Well, I haven't let her read the entire book yet. I was kind of waiting for that, like after it was published and after book tour was over, I could kind of sit with her and we could have conversations about it. I did let her read a chapter. It's a chapter where she gets ear tube surgery, and she closed the book very thoughtfully, and she's like, "Wow, Mom, I was really fierce back then." And I said, "You still are." And then she later said to me, like, "Thank you for everything that you went through." And for me, it was just like being a parent. You know, you do what you have to do to take care of your kids. But I think she is starting to realize that we were in a low economic situation. And that was unique or different from what other people go through.
Although, I mean, it's actually not unique. It's incredibly common. It's just that those stories are hidden and suppressed and not sort of told in the pop culture.
Right, because struggling is essentially shameful. And so people hide that as much as possible. I mean, I did. I have people who are reaching out to me now and say, "I wish I had known like how much you were struggling. I would have offered to babysit more." And I think we're so good at hiding that struggle because that means that we're a failure and we're not following this mythological American dream.
That's right.
So I would like to hear more stories of struggle. I hope that my story, gives birth to a million other stories that we can listen to.
Was that part of the motivation for writing the book, both for you to overcome your own sense of, totally like unreasonable but real sense of shame around having to struggle, but also to make it more okay for other people and to encourage them to share as well?
Yeah, I mean, originally I wanted it to evoke a lot of empathy for people in poverty. I wanted it to put a real human face on poverty and not a stigmatized one that, we've been told all these narratives for the past 30 or 40 years. And we've developed an image in our head that we automatically think of when we see the word poverty. And so we separate ourselves from that image as much as possible because poverty is scary. But in the political climate we're in and, with the government shutdown, more and more people are experiencing what it's like to not be able to afford food. And I think the closer it gets to home, the more empathy we'll have for people that we would normally separate ourselves from.
There's also this political narrative that divides the sort of deserving poor between the undeserving, right? And there's always crackdowns on social welfare programs to try to get out the lazy moochers who are just using the system. I mean, what was your experience accessing federal social safety net programs and with the stigma that comes with that and sort of how that works with our political system?
I was constantly having to prove not only that I didn't have any money or resources, but that I was working. And being a self-employed person especially,
right.
That was a lot of work.
Right, because you're not just getting a W-2 that you can hand in.
Yeah, and it's degrading. It's degrading to constantly have to prove that. It's not a system of trust or really, I don't think it's a system that works. I think it's a very broken system that keeps you falling behind constantly instead of really lifting you up and out of the position that you're in.
We had Wilbur Ross during the shutdown come out and say, well, I can't understand why these workers are accessing food banks. That didn't make any sense to him. Of course, he's a multi hundred millionaire. I think $800 million net worth, something like that. What would you tell politicians on both sides of the aisle? What would you want them to understand about what this struggle is like, and what are some ideas to make it easier for people?
Boy, I think I would want people to know that $15 an hour isn't enough, and that's what we're fighting for. A single mom with just one child needs to make, I think, $30 an hour to make ends meet, or to make up for the resources that she would normally receive from safety net programs at $10 an hour. And the wages that we're paying people it's just not enough. And we need to set up things like that. We need, child care. We need health care. There's so many things. But when you have this government job that is supposed to be, a job that everybody wants, suddenly they don't have a paycheck or two, and it's revealed that they don't have savings.
Very few Americans could go without a paycheck. I mean, so many Americans have very little in the bank to cover expenses if what they're counting on coming in goes away. What has been the response to the book? What have people said to you? What's moved you in terms of the feedback that you've gotten?
I get a lot of messages and emails through my website of single moms reaching out who have very, very similar stories to mine and saying, thank you so much for creating an opportunity for me to see myself in a book or a story. It's really hard for even me to see myself and my life represented correctly in a way that I identify myself with. And those are the ones that I had one person tell me, I got this book as soon as possible because I wanted to see if it was real. And it really is. Like, that was the life that I lived, only I was Mia.
Wow. Well, congratulations, and thank you, because it's not easy to share like the real details of what's going on in your life, no matter who you are. I know this took a lot of courage. It's very exposing, so thank you for doing that. I know it means a lot to a lot of people.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on here.
Of course. We'll have more Rising after this.